Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. On Mondays, my mother has dinner with me, and she gets anything she wants. And this week, she asked for salmon patties, biscuits, and white gravy. So that's what we had. I added some oven-roasted rutabagas and some mashed potatoes. Here are the ingredients. You can pause and write these down. And then let's get cooking. Now, I have a salmon patty video with fresh salmon and Old Bay seasoning. That's not what Mother wants. Mother wants this. Canned salmon, made into patties and fried. I've drained it. And I'm just going to break it up a little bit here. And this is the kind of salmon that I grew up on. Mother always kept a couple cans of salmon in the pantry for a quick meal. And over the years, I've made these patties just like this, but with chicken, and they are actually wonderful canned chicken. So I'm going to break this up a little more, and I want to show you, if you're not used to using these, there'll be things in it that look like bones because, well, they're bones, but they've been processed. They're soft. You don't have to take them out. See, they just break into a powder. So don't worry about those. They'll just crunch up. Now I'm going to add 1 beaten egg and mix it in well, of course. And this egg is the only thing here that's not already cooked, so these don't have to cook long. I'm adding a teaspoonful of salt, and then I'll add some freshly ground black pepper. And you know, I usually use red pepper. I don't care for black pepper too much, but this needs black pepper. And I have here about 2 tablespoons full of Panko breadcrumbs. You can use any kind of breadcrumbs. I like Panko, they're crispy. This is what they look like. You can buy them in the baking section of your grocery store. And I'll mix that in. And then we'll add some flour. Now, it's hard to tell you how much flour. Depends on how much liquid was left, how big your egg was. But it's going to be about 6 to 8 tablespoons full. And we just want to make this dry enough that it sticks together well in the pan. So I'll add a little and stir it, and then I'll add a little and stir it. So I'm considering that 2 tablespoons full. That's pretty close. And I'll tell you this, I'm using flour because Mother's allergic to corn, so I don't use cornstarch. But cornstarch may be a better choice for this, especially if you are trying to eat gluten-free. You can make these with cornstarch just as well. You would end up using, I think, just a little bit less. But you get a very good texture with cornstarch. So I think we're about there. I'll show you the texture I'm looking for. I want it to stand up easily on a spoon and stay together because we're going to form these into patties. And we don't want them to come apart when they hit the hot oil. I think we're about ready here. I'm going to meet you at the stove, where I have my trusty Wagner skillet with about a 1/4 inch of oil in it, heating on medium-high heat. I dropped a little bit in. You see it sizzles. That means my oil is hot enough. This is grapeseed oil. I sometimes use sunflower oil. We're going to form these using the 2-spoon method. You see I dipped 1 in the oil. And I've got a heaping tablespoonful there. And then I just push it off with another spoon and then form it into patties. And it comes off cleanly if you dip your spoon in the oil first. And I do about 4 at a time. Don't want to crowd them too much. This can will make about 12 of this size, 8 if you make them bigger. And you'll see in a minute I had to make some bigger. I was informed these were too small. But we'll start out with this size. And these are more like, I guess you would call them salmon croquettes. They're a little bit smaller and rounder than what I'm going to make here in a minute. Just drop them in, form them into the balls, the patties, and then wait a minute. Don't touch them. Folks tend to fuss with fried food, but you don't want to touch it for the first minute. And then if you have a good pan like cast iron, they will have formed a crust on the bottom and let go, so that when you flip them, you don't have any sticking to your pan. And I actually do this with a spoon and fork, or with a spatula and a fork. That way you don't mess them up, don't tear them up. And we're going to let these go 1.5 minutes on this side, because remember, the salmon was already cooked. The only thing that has to cook is the eggs. So about 1 minute on one side, then 1.5 minutes on the other, and then flip it back, and another 1/2 minute or so. So 3 minutes total cooking time. This is a quick meal. So I shake it a little bit to drain the oil, and I'm going to put these on a rack on a paper towel. So as I told you, I was informed those weren't big enough, so we're going to make some a little bit bigger. They'll probably cook a total of about 4 minutes. So I'm shaping it into a more flat patty, and this may be what you're looking for if you're looking for the old-fashioned salmon patties. So if you make them this size, you're going to get about 8 to 10 from a can of salmon, and that was just under 15 ounces, that can was. So I'm going to go ahead and fry these up, and then I'm going to show you how to make the white gravy. So I poured the oil off and measured back in 1/4 cup. And here I have 1/4 cup of flour. I've got this just a little above medium heat, and I'm going to stir that flour in until I'm sure there are no lumps. And that's really pretty easy. And you know, if you have trouble with lumps in gravy, watch this, because I'm going to show you how to make sure you never have any lumps in your gravy. So we want this gravy to stay a light color. We're going to make it with milk. And we just want to stir it long enough to get rid of the pasty flour taste. That's going to be about 1 minute. And what we have here is a blonde roux. I'm adding salt and pepper, about a 1/2 teaspoonful of salt, and a good healthy grind here of black pepper. And you know, the color of your gravy depends on the time here, on how much you cook your roux. You can let it cook longer so that your gravy has more color to it. I'm actually trying to keep it kind of white, light colored, so I have a blonde roux. And here's the trick to no lumps. I have here a pint of cold milk. Cold milk, hot roux, no lumps. There's another method to do it where you have a cold roux, then you would add a hot liquid. But this is assured that if you add this milk slowly and stir it in as you go, there'll be no lumps in your gravy. And I hear people all the time say, oh, I just have lumps in my gravy. I can't do it without lumps. Well, this is how you do it without lumps. And this is going to look really thin, but as it cooks, and you'll cook it until it's the thickness that you want. And see, you stir, stir, stir. A lot of stirring going on right now. And I'll add the rest of the milk. And as I say, I've got my heat on medium. You might have to turn it up just a little at this point to bring it to a simmer. And that's when you start getting your thickness. Like this. And you only have to let this simmer for about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. It'll thicken up pretty quickly, but you can cook it a little bit longer if you want it thicker. And I think we're just about ready. Let me show you what we got. I just want to show you this consistency. No lumps. Nice and creamy. This is going to go great on a biscuit. Let me plate this up. So this is comfort food. You start out with a biscuit, and if you don't make biscuits, I have a video on biscuits. It was my first video. Poor quality, poor sound, great biscuits. So you break that open, and then we're going to add some mashed potatoes on the side. Yes, this is a heavy carb meal. Mother needs it. Salmon patty on the biscuits, and if you're really into it, you can put one on both sides of the biscuit. I have here some oven roasted rutabagas, and they're actually yummy. I had some rutabaga left over and I didn't want to waste it. So then we're going to top this off with some gravy. As much or as little as you like, and put it on your potatoes if you want. And yes, this is childhood comfort food, or grown-up comfort food. Let's cut into it. I'll show you the inside. They are not dry, and I did fry them really crispy. Some people might not like them that crispy, but we do. We have nice tender fish inside. I'm gonna take a bite of my childhood, and it's really, really good. Mother's got the table ready. We're ready to eat. I want you to look at the inside of that biscuit. That's as flaky and light as you could ever want. So you might want to check out that video. I'll put a link in the info section. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.